Hi everyone, in this video we're going to discuss the stop-loss rules. And to help us better understand, we'll start by painting a picture. Think of a corporation. This corporation has investments, perhaps they've invested in some shares. And at some point in time, these shares end up paying a dividend to the corporation. Later on, this same corporation decides to take those shares and it wants to sell the shares to an unrelated third party. It wants to sell the shares in the market. This raises the central question of this video. What happens if those shares are sold at a loss? Well, that's when the stop-loss rules kick in. The stop-loss rules, put simply, are as follows. The loss in that situation when the shares are sold would be reduced by the dividends received by that corporation. If the shares are held for less than 1 year, or the corporation owns more than 5% of the class of shares that the dividends were paid on. Let's apply these rules to an example. And we'll start off by looking at some case facts. So the case facts are as follows. On May 15th, Novascope acquires 800 of the 9,000 available shares of Prism Corp at a cost of $23.50 a share. On June 10th, these shares pay a dividend of $2.40 a share. These are the only dividends that were received on these shares. Novascope sells the shares on June 20th for $20.35 a share. They have taxable capital gains of $45,000 in the year. And assuming no other transactions during the year, calculate Novascope's 20x7 NITP and taxable income. Let's do a quick analysis of what we just saw. We know that there were dividends, and if we take the 800 shares multiplied by the per share dividend, we get $1,920. We can also calculate our proceeds of disposition and our adjusted cost base on those shares, and we see that this results in a capital loss. However, we should also take a look at the broader transaction to see if the stop-loss rules apply. 800 of the 9,000 shares is equal to 8.9% of the shares. And so the shares were held for more than a year. However, more than 5% of the class of shares on which the dividend was received were held. 8.9% is more than 5%. Therefore, the stop-loss rules apply. And going back to the right of the screen, if we were to apply the stop-loss rules, we would subtract the dividends received from the capital loss, meaning the permitted capital loss would be $600, and using today's inclusion rate of 1/2, the allowable capital loss would be $300. We can use this information to help us calculate our NITP and our taxable income. We start off with 3A. We have property income of the dividends, $1,920. In 3B, we have a taxable capital gain of $45,000. That was given in the original narrative in the case facts. And from that, we can subtract the allowable capital loss, giving us a net taxable capital gain of $44,700. Our NITP then would be $46,620. Removing our dividends in Division C because it's a flow-through, we would end up with taxable income of $44,700. I hope you found this quick video to be helpful to you. As always, I want to say thank you so much for watching and happy studying.